AI is not going to replace you. What is going to replace you is one of you that really wants to harness and work hard with us on trying to figure this out. At that moment, one of the main challenges that I found was that this wasn't a tool problem. It was a people problem. It was a leadership problem. Everyone thought they were late. Everybody, you were talking about a guy that hadn't started and he thought it was late, and that's fine. I understand that. But sometimes I talk to organizations that were even more mature than what we were, and they thought they were late.
Hey, just before we jump into the show, got a little favor to ask you. If you enjoy listening to our podcast, please make sure you are subscribed on the platform of your choice. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever platform that might be. The more people who subscribe and the more people who like and rate the show, the more we give you an opportunity to have some great takeaways. It doesn't take you too long, and it would be a great help to us to help us grow the show. For now, that's it. Enjoy today's recording. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on the Business Takeaway podcast. Do you want to give a bit of a background to who you are and what finds you here today?
Of course, Ben. Thank you for having me here. Ben, I'm the CEO and founder of Teravision Technologies. We are a software organization. I created this company about 25 years ago. And I did it because I was convinced that the internet was going to change every single industry. And I wanted to be that organization that could help different companies navigate what we call now digital transformation. If you have seen, any industry, telecommunication, entertainment, banking has been changing. Now my kids just shout at Alexa and they get any of the songs that have been ever written in the planet, they can listen it in a second. So things have been changing, and we wanted to be that partner that could help these companies go through this. And we've been growing steady. Now we have about 220 engineers in our organization. But suddenly, I've been following AI for about 10 years. But 2 years ago, I was meeting with our CTO, and we finally understood that the AI models had been mature enough to take them seriously. And that's when our new journey started.
And that brings us to where we are today. So what have, in those 2 years or 2 years ago, I think probably people weren't really using AI that much. Or perhaps, some of us had heard of ChatGPT, whatever, but I think now everyone's using it. So I don't think there's a day where somebody doesn't probably use it in this household and other households around the world. So what's been happening to then transform your company into that place where that is now a key to your business and business development?
Yeah, what happened then, Ben, is that this is a great question because we didn't know what to expect at the moment, but we said, okay, let's test this out. And the way we did it was that we created 3 different independent teams, software teams that could develop from start to finish. We gave them a challenge that was that a product that we had developed in the past in 7 months. We told them that we wanted them to try to do it using AI tools, whatever they could find, in 8 weeks. And they started working, and we started seeing very interesting patterns. The first one that we landed very quick was that junior engineers were very eager, and they were very excited about this opportunity in this testing lab to try this new technology, something that was just there. But the quality that we were getting from their work was really low, was terrible. And then we were seeing the same pattern, but on the more senior engineers, they were more like, I don't trust this thing. but I'm going to test it out. And they were more thoughtful, and we were getting better results. Sometimes inconsistent, but we were getting better results. The other pattern that emerged right away was that in different stages of the software development lifecycle of the process, we saw clear acceleration. We saw sometimes that a product owner was able to create requirements in hours instead of days. We saw that someone was able to test something automatically, but then the other pattern was that those accelerations in the different stages did not compound. They were like accelerating in silos in some way. So basically, at that moment, we realized that the problem wasn't about tools. It was about how to orchestrate those tools and really get those gains for the complete process. And that's when our journey of discovery started.
And those tools 2 years ago, what were the tools? Because AI, I mean, we'd all heard of AI in this AI world, but the tools 2 years ago, what was being used in those really early formative things? What were you using to sort of get to this early AI model?
We were using for the team that was doing the product design and everything, we were using ChatGPT to create requirements. But on the development side, we started using Copilot. That was the first one that we used that was really strong. I mean, models have been getting better, well, on a daily basis. Right now, we use a lot of Cloud Code, but we started using Cloud Code about 3 months ago, 4 months ago. Before, we were using different aspects. And that's one of the challenges. It's very important what you're mentioning, because it is a big challenge how to keep up with these new things coming in, and how you are able to help your organization filter the noise and get the proper value on an organized way. That's a very big challenge, one of the challenges that we have found during the process, or during this journey.
I suppose the news broke yesterday, the day before, that one of the AI models has gone rogue and started to break itself out and all that. And so for me, who feels quite technology savvy and quite comfortable in the world of AI, that's quite terrifying. For some people who I've spoken to who aren't comfortable in AI already, they're absolutely, bricking it or whatever about what's going to happen. And where do you think that sort of change is going to push businesses? Because obviously the businesses are adapting, and now do you think that's going to pull people back and go, actually, this isn't for us, this is too scary for us?
Ben, I think that, and this is one of the things that I leave with my team. I'm convinced on how the future looks, and I'm pretty sure that the future, especially on my industry, it's agents creating the software that we used to create manually before. So the thing is that we need to figure out the how, and you put something very important there. I mean, we need to define guardrails. We need to come back probably and rethink, okay, this agent went rogue, I don't want that to happen. How can I avoid that? But the thought of saying, okay, now I'm going to come back and start writing code again with my hands, I don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. So I think it's a matter of rethinking, and it mimics perfectly what happened to us during these 2 years. I mean, we have been needing to rethink everything twice. I mean, we created a framework not 2 years ago, like a year and a half ago, and we are in the version 20 of the framework, because we didn't know what we didn't know then, and we had to continue adjusting to whatever is new in this technology that is amazing.
And you talk about sort of that leadership piece and leaders and stuff. You sort of describe today's leaders needing to be cognitive leaders. And what do you mean by cognitive leaders in that time of AI?
Well, there was one aspect that I wasn't expecting at all during this journey. I thought that, we've been in technology, we are learning new things every single day. And for example, 15 years ago, when the first iPhone came in, we had to learn how to create mobile applications, how to build them. But it was something that we learned and we put it on top of what we already knew. We already knew how to create web applications and we put it there. So when I started this journey of transformation with the company and with the AI, when we started pushing the whatever we thought it was the theory around this, we created a training program, we created a framework, and we tried to tell our engineers how to use it. At that moment, one of the main challenges that I found was that this wasn't a tool problem. It was a people problem. It was a leadership problem. At this point, you're telling an engineer that his identity or her identity has been to write code with their hands, good quality code for 20 years. And you're telling them, okay, right now, you're not going to do that anymore. Forget about it. Now you're going to use a machine, something that you're going to tell them what to do. You're going to learn how to orchestrate them working. And then you have to validate that what they do works and this is important, in a probabilistic way, because we're used to do this in a deterministic way. We build software saying, this is exactly the screen I want to build with these features, and you go and do it. But now you have many probabilities that are right, and you have to live with that. I mean, it's a way of thinking. So to answer your question, for me, this cognitive leader, and that's the reason why I called my book that way, is this person in the organization, this CTO, this VP of engineering, who intentionally creates the environment for this to happen, meaning orchestrate their people, their processes, and the AI systems into something that adds and creates synergies and more value to their organizations.
And talking of those CEOs and CTOs and things, what do you think the biggest misconception of CEOs still have about AI at this moment in time?
Well, with all the hype about AI, our experience shows that for greenfield projects, new products, you can use AI and accelerate 10 times, 5 times. That's amazing. But when you go into the type of clients that we have that are mid-sized clients, enterprise clients, where you have an organization where you have 50, 100, 200 engineers, and you have legacy code that has 20 years there, the challenges are different. And the acceleration that you are able to get, and what we have found in our with our programs, is that you can accelerate 30, 40% in a timeline of 9 to 12 months using these tools and orchestrating them. And sometimes I see CEOs that they think that you should be able to accelerate this 10x, 5x. And yes, again, for a small prototype and for a small MVP, yes, that's correct. But for the real world where they typically live in, that's I mean, at least we haven't found that that option happening. So,
and talking about, accelerating and getting things moving quicker, right? What's this going to do to the jobs of your engineers? You sort of used the phrase when sort of doing research on you. You said AI won't replace engineers, but engineers who use AI will, right? What do you mean by that, and where do you think it's going to go? There are some jobs that are going to be AI proof, 100%, regardless. I went to the dentist this morning. My dentist is not going to become AI. That is just not possible. But there's other jobs that will become obsolete because of it. Where do you see all of that going?
well, You know that when I was telling you about this initial lab exercise we did in our innovation lab, one of our main fears was exactly that one. I mean, I didn't see how the junior engineers would fit into this because they didn't know what they didn't know. And what I started uh, to realize is that we needed to give them training. We needed to provide them training to start leveling things up. I think that at that point, everyone in my organization, they thought they were going to lose their job, or at least they had the fear of losing that. And well, we created a training program. We created a framework that was all theory, and then we started pushing that into our 200 engineers, either client projects, our projects, whatever it was. And then suddenly it hits me that well, we needed to transmit to our organization safety net in a way. I mean, people cannot, again, this is a leadership problem, what I'm telling you. You need to give them the some way of feeling that they have a support system. And I realized that what I was asking them was exactly that. I was asking them to work with us, to live around the unknown and the uncertainty together, and to do their best. And I saw that the engineers that were doing that, I loved them. I loved what they were bringing into the organization. But the ones that I saw that were like passive or they were in denial, those were the ones that could be easily replaced by one of the other ones, the ones that they were really. So that's when in one of our quarterly review meetings, I sat with everyone in a Zoom meeting and I said, guys, AI is not going to replace you. What is going to replace you is one of you that really wants to harness and work hard with us on trying to figure this out. We don't have the answer. We have the theory and we have a plan to follow together, but we need you guys to jump without a parachute with us into this and see what happens. And I feel it was a great moment, not only for the ones that were pushing and going hard, but for the denial ones, the ones that felt that this was a threat. They were like, okay, if I do this effort, it looks like I have an opportunity in the organization. And I would like to add something else that you mentioned, very important. I think one of the aspects that we have uh, seen in the last 2 years is that the way their software teams were built has been maturing or transforming. Before, you typically had one person doing requirements, one scrum master, one designer, or on a typical team, 4, 5, or 6 developers because they were the engine on how to accelerate the project. Then you have a couple of people testing, and one person putting this in, responsible for putting this in the cloud. So you had about a 10 people team. During these 2 years, those roles have been merging. You have one role that is a product role. This is person that do requirements, do designs, and have all the definition aspects ready. And there, of course, they're using different type of tools, AI tools to work on that. Then you have one architect developer who uses either assisted development or agents, depending on the organization or where they are in their journey, and orchestrate them. And then you have somebody responsible for the QA environment as well. So that team that was before 10 people, now it's about 3, sometimes 4. But I've been also thinking about that. And the question is, okay, does the engineering market shrinks to 40%? I don't think so. I think that what's going to happen, or what I've seen happening, is that you try to create double of what you were creating. And instead of having one 10 people team, what I've been seeing is that you have 2 4 people team, and probably there is going to be a shrinkage of 10, 20% of engineers in a way. That's what I've been seeing. I'm not sure, but this is what I've been. I mean, I'm talking from experimentation, not from knowledge. It's from the difference that I have with other people probably is that I have 200 engineers, several teams working at the same time, and I can see things and patterns in a way that probably smaller organizations cannot.
And you talk about those engineers who didn't join where you had the ones who were going to jump without the parachute, as you said, and then you had the ones who were less sure about jumping, and perhaps wanted to check the parachute first. But where are they now at that journey? Have they seen how AI is transformed and they've come along with that journey, or have you lost some people because they've gone, no, I just want to do the manual coding. This is what I want to do.
That's an excellent question, and that comes back with one of the aspects that we include into our AI Transformation Accelerator program. That is the coaching, and the coaching it's we know now that it's imperative. Otherwise, you're not going to make it happen. And I'm going to give you a story. I was at the early stages. I was on the trenches with the team. I mean, I'm typically not. That's not my responsibility. But I needed to understand how this worked, what was happening, and I was having meetings with these 3 teams I mentioned. When we were pushing this into our teams and saying, okay, now you have to deliver and use this framework that we're telling you at the same time. There was one engineer that told me, Ricardo, I cannot use this right now. And I said, why? Well, because I'm going to introduce a technical debt into the project. What's going to happen, what is getting out of this machine, of this AI model, is not as good as the code that I can write. And I said, okay, that's fine. I understand that. And I said, okay, how do you see the future? And then the coaching comes there. That's one just little example. How do you see the future? Do you think in 2 years we are going to go back and write it manually, or you think we're going to use some sort of assisted AI to make it happen? I think it's going to be the assisted AI, he said. And I said, okay, then we have to figure it out. So please go introduce the technical debt, and that's where the leadership comes, and you tell them, it's okay. I'll give you permission to do that. Let's innovate, because innovate is different than what you've been doing in 20 years. We were not innovating doing software. People think we were, but we weren't. We were following specific guidelines and doing things in a specific way so we could deliver a deterministic solution. Now we are experimenting, we are innovating, and we don't know what we don't know. So at that moment, I saw that switch in his mind, and he was like, okay, I have permission to do that. One other aspect that was clear was that in every team, when we tried to introduce the training and the framework, we had to give them permission to go slower. We had to tell them, it is okay. We know that the next 2, 4, 8 weeks, you are not going to deliver 100% of what you used to deliver. And that also gave them that breathing room to say, okay, now I have time to learn and deliver. Of course, you cannot dip the productivity to 50%, but we saw that it dipped like to 80% for 2 or 3 or 4 sprints, and then they moved back forward. And then, well, what we wanted to see and what we have been able to see afterwards is that the compound acceleration in productivity in teams that have been with our accelerator program is that 30 to 40% that I mentioned before into it.
And you talk about the leadership piece through this. How does Ricardo's leadership change during this? Because you're into a whole unknown as a leader. You're trying to lead a team into something that's not known about, right? And how have you adapted over that period of time? Because that's a big shift for you.
Yes. Well, first I started I typically had one weekly meeting with my C-level team, and we started having 2. That was one of the things because we needed to be closer. And I started to identify patterns into our organization. And as I told you, that one of the aspects that I think I nailed it with the complete organization was that that AI was not going to replace them, but an AI engineer that harnessed this was. I had to do the same with my C-level team. We used to be very comfortable in the way we've been working for 20 years. I mean, we had all our processes were mature. Everybody knew what they were doing. And now it's not. And I don't think it's right now. It's going to be now, and it's going to be in the next 1, 2, or 3 years. So I sat with my team and I told them that my C-level team, that we had to make peace with the situation that we were going to be uncomfortable all the time. And I am uncomfortable all the time. I mean, I'm right now talking to you, and there are a lot of uncertain things that I don't know, but we have to be first honest with each other about what we're feeling and why we are not comfortable with things. But then we had to know that, for example, when we gave a client a quote, we knew exactly what we were going to deliver. We knew how we were going to do it. Now, when I tell you to come into my AI Transformation Accelerator program, I'm telling you, I did all these testings. I think this recipe works. Do you want to jump with me on this? I don't know more than this. I mean, I have 20 years of experience of engineering standards that helped me. I have a year, almost 2 years, experimenting on this day in and day out. That's all I have. If this works, fine. I mean, we have to be honest about it. But on the other hand, and I tell my team, hey guys, check out, and it's interesting because you take it for granted. Right now, we talk about concepts in the organization that we think are obvious for everybody, and they're not. They're not. We've been maturing those concepts for 2 years, and now we see very clear how you have to take your team from point A to point B and accelerate it really quick. But that doesn't mean, and I've been seeing this lively when I had my beta readers with the book. When people read things that you think are obvious and they said, oh, this is amazing, I never thought about it. Of course, they are trying to solve the problem, but they have no time. And that's what we have seen as well, is that CTOs and VPs of engineering, I interview 150 of them for the book, and during these 2 years. And they were, the main reason I wrote the book was that after the 10th or the 15th interview, everybody was trying to answer the same question. How can I use this new thing to increase the productivity of my software team? And some of them were more advanced, less advanced. They were doing one thing or another, but everybody was trying to answer the question. And right now, of course, we are more mature. Many companies are more mature, but we still have 80%, 70% of the companies that probably they haven't even started to figure out how to use this, more than just probably giving them tools to their organization, giving them Claude or giving them, let's try and test it out. And that's a good start, but you need to pile on top several things to make it really work and stick.
And let's just go back to those 150 leaders you interviewed. What was the most surprising thing because when you went and did the interview, you must have assumed that you were going to get X answers or Y answers potentially. What was the most surprising thing you got out of those 150 interviews?
Very interesting that you mentioned that. Everyone thought they were late. Everybody, you were talking about a guy that hadn't started and he thought it was late, and that's fine. I understand that. But sometimes I talk to organizations that were even more mature than what we were, and they thought they were late. Everybody thought they were late. Of course, I felt the same way. I felt that, I had the time pushing me to go through as fast as I could so I could really help my clients. So it was funny, and I think at this stage everybody thinks the same. If you talk to any CTO, none of them will feel that they're doing that. They're, oh no, I'm fine. I have this in control. No, you haven't. You don't have it. You know that if you have something and it's working in a way, but you need to continue it. That I mentioned before, that feel uncomfortable all the time. That's exactly the way I think they feel.
Where do you think we are on that cycle? Because if people are thinking they're late at this moment in time, right, to that, I would say, yes, I feel a bit behind, and I feel the companies I talk to are behind. They've said they can use ChatGPT. Some companies have just said to their staff, right? But where do you think we are? I think we're really still really early in this AI journey, that nobody's late. You can feel late. I get that impression, but I think we're really early in what it can potentially do from where we are.
I totally agree, and not only on software development, in general terms. I mean, I see. Well, you see it. I was at a conference, a CEO conference. This is a CEO conference that happens every September, and it's just mid-sized companies. And the way they structure the conference is just like conversations. You have like 30 CEOs, that are 150, and there are rooms with about 30 CEOs, and you talk about a topic. And on September last year, I'm gonna go to the one in September this year, but in September last year, um, we were talking about AI. There was like 2 or 3 people moderating the conversation, and when I raised my hand and I asked, as part of the conversation, "Hey, how your software teams are using AI?" And there were crickets. I mean, it was 2 or 3 of them gave me an interesting answer. The other 27 were looking at me like, "What are you talking about? Of course, we're using ChatGPT to write emails. That's amazing. It's a great tool." And so, to your point, I think this is where we are. I think we have an early adopters of 5-10% really using it, and of course they're pushing it, but we haven't got even into the early majority of the curve, in my opinion.
Hey, just want to ask for 2 minutes of your time. We hope you're enjoying today's recording of the show. And if you are, and you're not already subscribed to us, please do go and give us a little subscribe and follow on the platform that you're listening to us on. It really does help us grow the show and get this show out to more and more people. Anyway, back to today's recording. I've got a friend who will actually be appearing on the pod in a few weeks' time, and he is writing a whole lot of software completely with AI, and he's written a whole. He's got a computer degree, so he's got that coding knowledge. But he's weekends, evening, he just sits and presses this through, and he's got a whole software fleet or package that he's done using this, which he would never have achieved without the AI. And I think he's seeing that, and he's sending me things. I've done this. It's like, okay, great, this is amazing. But again, I still only feel with him that he's only touching the surface of where he could go with some of the tools we'll implement. So it's going to be a really interesting journey for where we go in the next few years. Talking of those CEOs, and you were saying, some of them have implemented ChatGPT to write emails. Brilliant, that's great. When a company will say to you what would you say to them about the next stages? Where can they take the next, from going from the basic, give everyone ChatGPT or Copilot plugins or whatever? Where's the next step people can go with their AI integration?
Well, I can talk with confidence on our industry, on more talking about CTOs jumping into this. I think the trick here, Ben, is to jump into this intentionally. What I mean is, you really need to think about all the processes that you're going to work on, and you have to think how AI can orchestrate them. And you have one of the aspects that we have seen that works really well is to create loops of iterations. We call it 90-day loops. So you say, okay, I want to, you can set up an expectation of saying, I want my team to be 40% more productive in 12 months. Okay, that's fine. Okay, but what do you want in 90 days? Okay, 90 days, I want to be able to have one of my teams define for my organization how we're going to use this. And the metrics that I want are A, B, and C, and I'm going to test this out. And then you go and work on something for 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. You test it out, you see what works and what doesn't work. And once you do that, you adapt and keep compounding your learnings 90 days at a time. It, that's what I would suggest any one of these. Probably you can relay that to CEOs as well and saying, okay, now let me think and see in my organization, how can I use AI in different ways? But I think it's a matter, or the way we have seen that works really well and keeps everybody calm and sane in a way is, okay, our goal is a 90-day goal, and I can prove if it worked and if it didn't work, and then I can decide what I'm going to do in the other iteration.
You know, you're implementing AI. AI is mostly right, but I always get at the bottom the disclaimer from AI going, right, you know, AI, please check, and all those sort of things. Have you seen where you're writing code, or software engineers are writing code, where they've actually gone, hey, AI is going down the wrong route, and we need to pull it back? And have you seen that improve over those 2 years and yet a better model, you know, 80% accuracy, 100% accurate? You know, where are you seeing it sort of learning and changing?
Well, you describe it clearly. I mean, that's one of the main challenges. Especially, I mean, it's getting better, and I'll get there in a minute. Um, but the main challenge is how you really get that code to do what it has to do and to be connected with the architecture you have. And let me give you a story. We had this client where they lack one engineering standard that was specifically, when we were pushing all this into this client, they were not uh, building something that we call the nodes of the decisions of the architecture. When you are deploying software, the decisions of the architecture, they were not written consistently. They were in the minds of their engineers. And before AI, this was working well because every time they were deploying, the engineers were there, they had their thoughts, and anything that didn't look right in the architecture, they would catch it. And it wasn't ideal, but it worked. When we put AI we tried to push AI into this process, what happened was that, and coming to the aspect of the errors, is that engineers were delivering features for the software, and the features were working perfectly. But because the AI model didn't have the context of the architectural decisions, when you connected that when in the full repository, it didn't work. It wasn't with the same architecture. So it was even a more complex problem, because you were getting the right answer, but the right answer could not be connected properly to your main process. So yes, that's a very complicated thing, and that's the type of things that I'm talking about, where I said there is no way you can increase the productivity 10x, whatever x. It's a problem that you need to fix. One of the aspects that we see, and definitely the bottleneck that we are seeing in the process now. Before, the engine were the engineers writing code. If you wanted to do something faster, you increase the amount of developers in a team, and you could go faster. Now, to go faster, you need the product team or the product person to accelerate what they're doing and define everything on every single detail. If you do that, then you are in the best shape for developing something, because first, the model is going to give you the best possible answer, and you don't have to repeat the cycle several times until you get the right answer. And second, you can create the testing environment based on those requirements as well, and you can automatically test several things. So we have seen that the bottleneck now in the process is more on the requirement and definition than what it was before that wasn't developed.
And do you think that's where the future is going to go, right? So that the software engineers are going to spend that more time developing scope and developing developing what they actually want it to be than coding. Whereas in the past, it had all been, there's the scope, and then I'm going to spend 2-3 weeks coding. Is that's where their role is going to adapt and change over the coming years?
I think there are different roles. I mean, I think there is space right now for one role of a product and one role of orchestrating the development, because you now, depending on how you're doing it, but you can either do assistant coding or you can do work with agents, but you need an engineer. You mentioned that example of your friend technology. So I think you're going to need the engineer to develop and the product person. I don't think those two roles, especially because I've seen in my experience that it's a different type of role and different type of profile of people, the one who think about the requirements and the one who develop. But I think those are the main two that you're going to need in the future.
And if Ricardo had a CV land on his desk of a brilliant engineer who refused to use AI, but an average engineer who was great at AI, which would Ricardo hire now?
Well, the second one for sure. Well, I will train any of them and it will work. I mean, if you have the attitude and you want to do it, it's fine. If you are not going to do it, then I'll send you my book. Hope you read it. And then you come back and say, I mean, there is no way. I mean, I saw 2 years ago some of my engineers thinking about this and not very convinced. But now probably there are some right now that haven't go through that process. But when you start in the process, after weeks, you realize there's nothing you can do, and you need to jump into this new world. And the sooner you jump in, that's one of my advices. Jump in right now, because it blows your mind. I mean, you know it as I do. When it's not before, when you, if you told me 15 years ago when the first iPhone came out and you said, do you imagine what you have to do to create software for an iPhone? And I was like, yeah, I could imagine that. But now if you tell me, can you imagine what AI can do? If I don't test it, there is no way I can imagine what it can do. You need to test it. You need to jump in, and you need to get that dopamine moment several times during the day where you say, oof, it's amazing how this can work. And then now my brain starts making other connections and seeing, oh, now I can do this, now I can do that. But you need to test it. So in my humble advice for any engineer and anyone is use it, think about it, and test it.
Yeah, I've just come out of hospital. Nothing totally serious. Whenever the doctor came round, I recorded the conversation and I went back into AI and asked it what that all meant. You know what I mean? And okay, I could probably find that on Google. Once in that chat, it had got all my information. It was like, so tomorrow you should be feeling this. This is the symptoms we should be looking for. All these sorts of things. So, you know, I did say to the doctor, and he said, "Oh, don't listen to what AI says; it's wrong." But it was pretty good at expecting when I was going to get out of hospital and all those things. So it's the scope that it offers now. It is not, you know, your world is software, fully get that, but the scope it can offer to the human person is incredible. We talk about digital transformation and transformation of companies. If somebody was to turn around and say to a company that hasn't done anything with AI in software world, where do you start? Where do you next take it from just a basic ChatGPT integration into emails to where's the next step?
Okay, for the engineering team, the first step has to be to test the tools. You start testing, and that's fine for a couple of weeks. They can start seeing what it works. Then you gotta give them training. You need to give them training, especially because you want everybody in the organization to have the same language. You want them. I mean, right now we have the model, the LLM, the whatever. You want everybody to speak the same language. You want to know that everybody's saying the same thing. Then you have to give them a framework. You have to tell them how to use it. You have to tell them this is the way we're going to use it. We're going to connect this with that, and that's part of why it's important, the cognitive leader. Once you do that, then the next step is having what we call a team zero. A team zero for us is one of the problems that we saw during our implementations with our teams was that when you had one client that had several teams working at the same time, uh, many of them were advancing very well with this, and some of them were lagging. And we didn't know why. We wanted to solve that. So this team zero concept helped us um, have only one team in the organization who is responsible for checking everything that is new in the market, for getting the framework and adapting the framework to their organization, because every organization is different. And then they have the responsibility of delivering something we call the transfer package. The transfer package is all this knowledge and learning that uh, any other software team in the organization needs to start using this. And so all these other teams, they are not innovating. They are just using a recipe that their own Team Zero created. And then the next step is to do this every 90 days. Every 90 days, this Team Zero delivers a new transfer package, and you have all your teams using the best they can use, or the best framework, or the best way of accelerating based on what this innovation team created. And the final touch, Ben, is what we've been talking uh, all afternoon. That is coaching. You need, once you tell people, you go through all these process, and everybody's aligned, but it's so easy for the human beings to come back to what they know and don't do what you tell them, even though if they think they have to do it. So you need that coaching. You need that. And coaching, it means, I can give you several examples. One of them is every 2 days, one of the things we did was that we brought one of our engineers with an aha moment that they had, 10 minutes. We invited everybody could come. And we saw 50, 30, 60 engineers at a certain moment. And this person came in and explained the aha moment that he had in 10 minutes. And I was able to see people in the camera in Zoom, like really, I mean, people learn in different ways. And sometimes other engineers were like, oh, now I get it. And I already explained you that. I gave you an 8-hour course. But I mean, you don't learn that way. You learn, but some of them got it, some of them didn't. So that coaching part, and again, it's not rocket science, but you need to be intentional about, hey, if I want this goal, and I need to help my people and guide them. And coaching hasn't been, it's not something new, but now it's more important than ever, because we're telling people to do things in a very different way than before.
And if we fast forward a little bit, right? Let's think 5 years time down the line. Which jobs inside software development do you think become more valuable, and which jobs become less valuable with the development of this AI?
Oof, that's an amazing question. And that's, I've been trying to answer that for the last 2 years on how the software companies of the future are going to look like. I think, and this is another trend I have seen with my clients. Uh, Before, 20 years ago and 15 years ago, the majority of our work, or the work that our clients ask us, was what we call dedicated teams. We provided a team to work on a specific project, and we deliver from start to finish. We've been seeing that has been shifting to our clients having the control of all their software teams. And probably during the pandemic it was 50-50. And but right now it's about 80-20. And it, 80% of the teams being internally on the client, and sometimes we add engineers and we complement with our engineers to help them make this. So to answer your question, I've been seeing that the majority of these organizations, what they need now is that help on how to use this. They want to do it their own, and I think organizations like mine can help them with our experimentation and with our knowledge to help them understand on how to increase their productivity of their teams. What I mean by that is consulting, is coaching, more than doing the work for them. That's not what I'm seeing in the market. I'm not sure about my answer for sure. I have no clue. To answer your question, I have no clue, but this is what I'm seeing.
And fast forwarding 10 years, if we were to sit down and record today, record this again in 10 years' time, is there something that you think sounds unbelievable about AI, but you think will happen? Is there something way out that you think in 10 years' time we're going to be seeing this in the world? I mean, AI, you're asking the lottery numbers, you're asking crystal ball, but is there something you think this is where this is going to end up?
I think as a human race, I think that AI, one of the aspects that I see that amaze me and I love it, is that it's accelerating the rate of innovation. And I come back to the uh, conversation where I was telling you that new prototypes, new MVPs, you can accelerate this 10x, 5x. The example of your friend, on his own, he's building something amazing that probably would have taken him a team of 5 people for 8 months, and now he's doing it on his own in a couple months, investing, I don't know, $5,000 in tokens. So that, I think, is going to accelerate. Well, it is accelerating the innovation in the planet, and I think that's going to be amazing for us as a human race. I mean, the velocity that we have seen innovation in the last 20 years have been amazing, but I think we are going to increase that exponentially in the next years. Where are we going to get? I don't know, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, who knows? Who, as you said, who knows exactly where we're going to end up? As I said, when we finish up with the podcast, we always ask for some rapid fire questions that we give to all guests. So we'll go and see where we end up on that. Are you an Apple or Android user?
Apple.
What is your social media platform of choice?
LinkedIn for sure. All the other ones, I don't see them, but my wife showed me whatever she thinks is interesting that I should see.
Are you a beach or city break person?
I would say both. I love to live in the city, but I love to go and spend some weeks beachfront to rest.
Blame me on the same. Are you a travel first class or are you a save the money person?
I don't travel first class, but I love to go in first class when they give me an upgrade. But I don't think it's worth it.
No, first isn't. I don't think it is.
No.
Business so you can lie flat, maybe. But
Probably,
first isn't worth it.
Yeah.
When's traveling, what's the one thing you can never leave without?
My headphones.
Are you a morning or night person?
I'm very productive in the morning when I sleep well, but it's hard for me to go to sleep early. So, yeah.
We'll say morning. You're more productive in the morning. Would you rather build something new or fix something that's broken?
Definitely create something new. I'm not good at fixing stuff. I always have one additional screw or something that if I take something apart, it's never going to be the same later on.
It's when you get to building the IKEA flat pack and you've got one screw left. It's like, well, where's that gone?
That's normal. Several screw left, yeah.
And then it falls apart and you go, oh, that's where that screw is missing. Are you a gut instinct or data-driven person?
I'm a data-driven person. I have instinct, but I'm very rational. So I push for me, things are obvious when I have the data.
Are you a growth or profitability? Which is more important?
Well, I think it's depending on this moment on your business. I mean, when you're starting, growth is the most important thing. And then there is a moment where you need to start thinking about profitability. So growth, I would say, because I like to start things.
And then the final question, the most important of the whole show. I'm standing at a bar. What is your drink of choice?
That would be a rum fashion, an old fashioned with good old 20-year dark rum instead of bourbon.
Nice. Very nice. Well, Ricardo, thank you so much. It's been fascinating to talk about AI and where this is all going. So thank you very much. I'll put a link to your book in the show notes as well, so people can go and have a look at that, and a link to your social media channels as well. So thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
I appreciate it, Ben.
Thank you very much to Ricardo for joining us on the Business Takeaway podcast today. Really fascinating talk about AI and that description of where AI is going. It's from the software side of things, it's a lot of different side packs from everywhere everyday use that people are doing. But it's really interesting descriptions and interesting models about where he's going and where that's going in the software world. If this is the first episode you've listened to, we thank you for listening. And if you have enjoyed it, please do make sure you're subscribed and following us. And if you have the chance to leave us a little review, that is really helpful us to grow the show. There's plenty more shows to come. We've got some great guests lined up in the future weeks. So we just want to say thank you very much for listening to today's recording, and we look forward to seeing you on the next show.